It looked like a flash knockdown. You didn't look hurt in the 8th round.
No, it wasn't. Honestly, before, it was a slip. I'll be honest, if I got knocked down, I'll come out and say I got knocked down. But then there was a genuine slip. By the end of the day, it's fighting. It got called, I got up, I did what I had to do.
Tommy, will you give him a rematch?
100%, definitely.
Ooh, what's good, family? It's your man, the YB, back once again. So we just heard there from your man's Timmy Fumbles. In fact, I have to shout out my doggy quickly for coming through and boosting the coin up. Sugar Daddy Don, 100%. Now, Timmy Fumbles has reacted to having his cherry popped. The JP, whatever way you want to look at these people, the JP took this Donny's virginity. Yeah, Timmy Fumbles is no longer a boxing virgin. And when you think about a lot of the top guys, they cling on to that, don't they? Now, who took Timmy Fumbles' boxing virginity? It was a YouTuber with a probably, I've got to be honest here. You might know me, I was a big Jake Paul shill. I no longer believe in the hype. Well, not because he lost, but because of the things he's done after the fight. Jake Paul's come out, oh, I'm still rich, and oh, I made 30 million. That to me is a clown move. That's the worst thing you can do if you lose, from my point of view. There's nothing more. And listen, Jake Paul don't even know me, but I'm just saying, morally speaking, it's the worst thing you can do. I don't know how people, I don't know how people live with themselves. Although, I've heard all the rumours and all the allegations of Jake Paul scamming people with the crypto. So I should have been known about his character. This shouldn't be a big shock. Enough people, and these guys, I don't understand, these guys are already rich, and he's scamming. But anyway, the point is, Jake Paul, in this fight, categorically has one of the most telegraphed jabs I've ever seen in the game. Do you understand, people? I've never seen a jab so telegraphed. He leans. Jake Paul after the fight said, "Oh, I'm injured and my arm's bust up." I'm not surprised. My arm hyperextends. That's because you pop your shoulder out. I've never seen someone jab like that. He looks at the floor. He turns away. He doesn't even look at the floor. Well, it depends what he's doing. Sometimes Jake Paul looks at the floor and jabs. Sometimes he looks round to the right side. Sometimes he almost looks behind him and jabs. It's just wild. And people on TV were saying, this is predictable. We could all see it coming. Apart from Timmy. Do you know what I'm saying? Apart from Timmy, this great masterful boxer. I do have to say, again, Jake Paul's jab was so bad. But yet, it popped Timmy and took his boxing virginity. Yeah? That should tell you. And people can say, oh, anyone can get caught. Well, yeah, Mayweather didn't. Devin Haney hasn't. People say Devin Haney ain't fought no one. But he ain't never been popped in the mouth by one of the most bait jabs in the history of the game. Genuinely, in the history of the game, show me someone with a more bait jab than Jake Paul. And nonetheless, Timmy Fumbles went straight into it. And not only went straight into it, went onto his backside. I ain't trying to hear about slip people. Now, we've all seen slippy fights before. We've all seen them fights where people are slipping around the ring. But don't tell me it's a slip when not one person has slipped the whole night. We're 8 rounds into a fight and no one has slipped. And then you get hit square in the mouth and you end up on the floor and it's a slip. No, that don't work, people. If the ring's slippy, don't get me wrong, there are cases where the ring is slippy. If the ring's slippy, you stay slipping. You don't suddenly slip when you get popped right on your chops. Yeah? I said, and I was wrong. I thought Jake Paul was better than what we saw. I thought Jake Paul was more than a TikTok boxer. He's not. 100% TikTok. Yeah? But still, TikTok or not, TikTok, telegraph jab, put Timmy Fumbles down. That's the reality of the situation, people. All these other boxers out there, the real boxers, Tommy isn't a real boxer, I'm sorry, until I see him beat a real boxer. That's the thing. People forget. This was about Jake Paul. Jake Paul was the guy set to beat the real boxer. What's Timmy really done? Timmy's beat a TikTok guy who started 3 years ago and who really ain't even really that bothered. Jake Paul wasn't dying to win this fight. He's made that clear afterwards. He turned up to make money. It's all been about a big money scam. That's what we now know. It's a shame he didn't tell me that before, but again, it's my fault. We should have known this one. We know people with a lot of money don't want to get stuck in. But I bought in, I don't know what it is. People love to lie, don't they? Maybe it's not even necessarily lie. Yeah, let's say I'm going to have a fight. I know for a fact I'd tell you I'm going to win it. Well, no one does a fight they think they're going to lose. So I would tell you I'm going to win, and I'd probably tell you, put the bank on it. But what I do know is, if I told my people, put the bank on it, you best believe, if I flop and go out sad, you ain't going to hear me, oh, I made 100 grand, so I'm alright. I feel so guilty, do you know what I mean? But that's me, I've got empathy. I've got a soul inside me. All these celebrity cabalons, they ain't got no soul. All they care about is shekels. Adding more shekels up. Even though you've already got a whole bunch of shekels. What do you need more shekels for? Well, we don't know. Anyway, back to Timmy. Timmy, man, end of the day, it's a slip, and there's always some, that's what I don't understand. With these guys, yeah, there's always some excuse. Oh, it's a slip. Oh, it's a rib. Oh, it's, you know what I mean? There's always some reason why things, just call a spade a spade. Stop lying. Oh, I'd tell you if I got knocked down. Yeah, I bet you would. Who believes that? Who believes Tommy would have genuinely told us that he got sent into orbit? No, I'm not lying. He didn't get sent into orbit like Chris Ubambi Jr., but he weren't far off. His feet, he took flight. Jake Paul jabbed this guy with a telegraph jab, and Timmy was in the air. That's what happened. Again, I'd love to tell you it wasn't that the way. If it wasn't the case, I'd say that. I'd say, people, Timmy slipped, and I mean, crazy. The Fury fans who were doing the analysis, they were like, oh, it was a slip, and oh, Jake Paul stood on his foot. I've got a video coming soon exposing the whole slip narrative. There was no slip. There was no foot standing on his feet. Tommy Fury was actually pretty planted. He was in probably one of the best positions to take a shot. In fact, I failed to pull that picture up now. I ain't got it up, but you best believe it. Tommy Fury was genuinely in one of the best positions to hold a shot. Let me see if I've got it on this camera now. Right now. Here we go. Look, here it is. Look, perfect. You man can just about see. It's annoying it's in the way, but you should be able to see. Look, this is where Jake Paul hits him. Look at Tommy. Tommy, his knees are bent. I mean, we've seen people, yeah. We've seen people like Dillian White, Bambi legs, whose legs are like straight stilts. We've seen people like Dillian White with no balance. But look at Tommy. Tommy, he's got his back leg bent. His front leg's a little bit Dillian White-ish, but that's how the Furies box. The Furies have always boxed with straight kind of legs. You don't see the Furies sitting down like Canelo. So this is, look at Timmy. Timmy, his back leg's bent. He's in a firm position. He's just thrown a jab of his own. He doesn't look off balance to me, and this is just before the punch lands. Yeah. So I'm questioning, where is the slip coming from? Because what I know is Tommy Fury was in a position to punch, because Tommy Fury was putting his own jab out. So, what I'm pretty confident of, people don't jab, people don't throw punches when they're not balanced. Don't get me wrong, Tommy Fury and the Fury family, they do the whole herky-jerky thing, but I'm talking about relatively speaking. Relatively speaking, no fighter throws a punch when they're not stable. It doesn't make sense. Your mind and body is always focused on stability before you do anything else. So for Tommy Fury to be putting a jab out, there's no way he was, you know what I mean? Oh, if Tommy Fury was slipping backwards at this point before the punch landed, why was he throwing his own jab? No, he'd be focusing. His arms wouldn't be thinking about offense. His arms would be, and his body would be thinking about adjusting himself to find his balance. People who are off balance don't throw punches out. It's impossible. Naturally, or habitually, instinctually, your body will try to adjust itself to become balanced again. You won't put a jab out there if you're off balance. So the question is, Tommy Fury's jabbing, he's on balance, he then gets jabbed at this point and ends up transitioning on his way with alongside SpaceX to Mars. Yeah, that's what happened. This jab took him off his feet, he's in a good stance, and it lifted him into orbit. I mean, again, people have to be honest here. Look at Jake Paul. Jake Paul is, and this was, oh my god, I don't know what Jake Paul's team be doing. Where is Jake Paul's head? Have you ever seen anything like this? Jake Paul is looking backwards. I told you about this. And that's the thing, you man thought I was joking, didn't you? You man actually thought that, oh, why be a line? Jake Paul wasn't. Jake Paul's literally looking backwards. I've never seen anything like it, people. And it's really a miracle this jab landed. Jake Paul was jabbing all night. Normally, yeah, when you see not even a good boxer, any anything boxer, when you jab, you're coming from this position, pop, pop, yeah, pop, pop. You're looking at the target. How can you jab looking at the floor? How can you jab looking over there? Jake Paul, every single one he threw is looking at the floor, he's looking backwards, he's trying to wave to his nan. That's what it felt like. It felt to me as if Jake Paul was trying to jab and wave to his nan in the crowd who was behind him. What are these guys doing in camp? I've never seen anything like it, people. How can you hit something you're not looking at? And that's what I'm getting at, in as much as this is how bad Tommy Fury is, people. Jake Paul's looking at his nan 180 degrees behind him, and still he managed to land on Tommy Fury and send him into orbit. That's how bad Tommy Fury is. It's not a lucky shot, people. Because again, lucky shots, if lucky shots were the lucky shots, then everyone would be caught with them. Jake Paul wasn't even looking at the target. Jake Paul's looking at the floor, and he still hit you. That's these are levels, people. So don't tell me it was a slip. Don't tell me nothing. And this wasn't a one-off. Jake Paul was looking at the floor and looking behind him all night. And this shows you how bad Tommy is, because, wait a minute, you've got a man, and it's not just a jab. Half or more of the shots Jake Paul throws, he's looking at the floor, he's looking behind him, he's looking to the right. He's never looking at the target. And I think what's happened is, Jake Paul got in the habit of that whole wrestler with an overhand type shtick. Jake Paul Jake Paul's success is his downfall. He landed a few lucky shots, against Woodley, and when you actually watch them shots, what's Jake Paul doing? Looking at the floor. Puts his head down and wings his hand over. And it worked. Even in the Nate Robinson fight, similar kind of stuff. Look at the floor. The only fight Jake Paul's actually looking at a target is the Gibb fight. That's his best fight. He's looking at a target, he's popping the target, and it's all straight shots, looking at the target. I think since then, I can hurt Gibb. Since Jake Paul started stopping people, I'm really powerful. And he's gone way too far to his head. It's even worse than Wilder. At least Wilder looks at the target for the most part. Do you know what I mean? When Wilder's lining his right hand up, he's not looking at his nan 180 degrees behind him. I don't know what these $1 million trainers are doing. But anyway, the reason I give you that background is to say, this is how bad things are, people. Yeah? And listen, Tyson Fury, I'm not his biggest fan recently. But you'd never see Tyson Fury be caught with a jab like that. You'd never see Tyson Fury caught with a jab from a dude who's looking at the floor. I don't believe it, people. I just don't. This wouldn't happen. Not only that, this wasn't the only shot. Jake Paul wasn't just looking at the floor with a jab. Jake Paul was looking at the floor with most of the shots he threw. Most of the shots Jake Paul threw, watch it yourself. Most of the punches Jake Paul throws, he's not looking at the target. He's looking everywhere but, literally. Why? He's scared to get hit. Jake Paul's scared to get hit. So what do children do? If you kind of physically impose yourself on a child, what do? Look at the floor, put their hands in front of their face. And this is a schoolboy amateur boxing error. I think there's been some sort of science study. Children believe if they shut their eyes, up until the age of 5 or something. Up until the age of 5, children believe if they shut their eyes, they're not there anymore, or something like that. Or if they shut their eyes, nothing's happening. And that's what Jake Paul doing. If I look at the floor, that means, you know what I mean? If I look at the floor, that means Tommy Fury isn't doing anything. So I'll jab and look at the floor, and it'll be okay. When in reality, the only success Tommy had was because of what Jake Paul was doing, i.e. looking at the floor. A few uppercuts and a few little combinations. But again, Jake Paul didn't look at the target the whole night. And still, Tommy couldn't do nothing with that. Do you understand? That's how bad this is for Tommy. Tommy went life and death, split decision with a man who ain't never looked at the target. And still got knocked down. This is textbook stuff here. In as much as you got knocked down by a man who isn't even looking at the target. You don't get lower level than that, people. You just don't. It's one thing to be hit by a man who's looking at what he's doing, but this guy, Jake Paul, literally is a chancer. I'm going to put my head down and just wing it. I hate to say it, but that's what it's become. It's become a lottery ticket. Jake Paul is a lottery ticket fighter. All of his shots. Shut your eyes, look at the floor, wave to your nan, and wing one. And Tommy got put down by that man, by a lottery shot. And it wasn't a case of luck either. Because why wasn't it a case of luck? Luck is, I'll tell you what luck is. For me, luck would be Andre Ward versus Kovalev 1. Andre Ward versus Kovalev 1. I think it's round 1. Kovalev comes out, pops Ward in the mouth, and Ward flash knockdown, and the rest is history kind of thing. The reason this isn't luck is because Jake Paul had been doing this for 8 rounds. You don't get lucky after 8 rounds. Lucky is usually in the first few rounds where you're not used to someone. If Timmy had any IQ, he'd have dialed in to say, okay, I know Jake Paul loves to lunge in and look at the floor and do God knows what with his jab. And Sean Porter was saying, if Tommy's any good, he'll start to read how telegraphed Jake. I'm not going to lie to you. I had to turn the fight off after a few rounds because I couldn't believe how baked Jake Paul was. I couldn't believe how obvious he was. And I thought any second now, surely Tommy's going to capitalise, but he never did. Again, that's how bad Timmy is. He couldn't separate himself from a man who's looking at the floor for most of the fight. Even when, like, Tommy had some success and had some combinations, yeah? Look at what Jake Paul's doing. Jake Paul's got his guard up, looking at the floor. Looking at the floor, off balance, moving backwards and looking at the floor. Not in a position to counter punch. You know what I mean? It's just like, wow. This should have been, if Tommy was any good, it should have been proper levels. Really should have been. Levels. And it wasn't. So don't tell me it was a slip. You got knocked down by one of the sloppiest, I'm going to call it, Jake Paul's an MMA fighter, I believe. All this talk about real boxer. Well, listen to me, if you was a real boxer, you didn't show it. That's what we can conclude. Is Timmy going to light the world up in the future? That remains to be unseen. Based on what we saw, we can definitely be sure that was not a real boxer performance. If anything, well, for me, knockdowns rule for me. If you get knocked down, you've lost a fight. That's how I almost feel. Unless you've completely schooled the guy. If you've schooled the guy and then just got caught, that's not the same. But you weren't even really schooling him. I said to someone earlier today, how I like to judge fights are, who would you rather be the girlfriend of? Watching this fight, who would you rather be the girlfriend of in the crowd? Now, I wouldn't want to, me personally, I'd rather be Jake Paul's girlfriend. In as much, it sounds weird, but I'm talking in terms of, or who would you rather be as a man? At the end of that night, not knowing the result, obviously, after that fight had taken place, who would you rather be? I'm sorry, I'd rather be the man who scored the knockdown. Did Tommy Fury land a few flappy jabs? Okay, you can land a few flappy jabs. I'll put you on your backside. That's how really fights should be scored. Who would you rather be? It'd be Jake Paul for me. And he weren't impressive, as I've explained. Anyway, Tommy, you got put down. And what that means is, if you get put down by this guy, with a slow, ponderous, laboured, signalled jab, you're going to be a whole snack. Literally a whole snack for anyone worth anything. In my opinion. If I'm wrong, you man know me. If I'm wrong, I'll come out and say I'm wrong. Many times I've said I'm wrong. I said I was wrong about Wilder. I said I was wrong about Tyson Fury at times. I'll own it. If Tommy Fury proves me wrong and he's really the real deal in real boxing, I'll come on there and tell you, man, he's the real deal. I don't know what I'm talking about and whatever. But for now, it's as good as useless. Tommy's probably... Tommy's not useless. Tommy, for me, is in the top 10, 20% of the YouTube boxing game. That means Tommy's up there with Jake Paul, KSI, Salt Pappy. Those are the ones, that's the league Tommy Fury's in. He's not the league above. He's not in the real boxing. Tommy Fury's alongside Jake Paul, KSI and Salt Pappy. That's where Tommy finds himself. And the result, all due respect, the result reflects that. A split decision win over a 3-year novice. I would actually back Salt Pappy to fill Tommy Fury in. Salt Pappy's got the hand speed. He actually knows how to pressure fight. I'd back... Maybe I'll be wrong again, but I'm just saying, I'd back Salt Pappy to back Tommy Fury up and light him up like a Christmas tree. That's what I'd do. Because neither one of these two, Jake Paul and Tommy Fury, are scared to death of fighting on the inside. They have no inside game. And Salt Pappy, he would open these dudes up like a can of beans, in my opinion, both of them. Both of them were clinging on for dear life. Both of them was fanning around the place. Salt Pappy would... Yeah, he'd make a whole snack out of these guys. And if I'm wrong, fair play to them. But I want to see it. But I guarantee you, Tommy Fury will fight Jake Paul, fight KSI, and then dip off. He ain't going to go into real boxing, and he ain't going to fight Salt Pappy either. Anyway, let me know your thoughts. Smash the like button, subscribe. Tommy Fury, knockdown, no slip. And I'll be back, 100%.